Hello champ, welcome to this lesson. I know that we are now very familiar with the concept of federalism. That is, a system of government where power is shared between the center and subordinate units. In this system of government, all the powers of states do not reside within the center. Subordinate units, which are often called states, also have the power to make laws and govern their territory. But how can we tell an actual federal state? In fact, how can we tell federal states in Africa? And how many federations do we have in Africa? Well, there are 5 federal states in Africa: Comoros, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Somalia, and Sudan. But what really makes them federal states? Is it because they are called federal republics or because of the structure of the states? Well, let's dive into that. The first thing that makes Comoros, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Somalia, and Sudan federal states is that power is shared between the federal and federating units. In Nigeria, for example, power is shared between the federal government and the 36 states. This means that the federal government and the 36 states have the power to govern as stipulated in the Constitution. The sharing of power between the states is not just made up by anybody, that is the head of state, but it is enshrined and recognized by the Constitution. Secondly, Comoros, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Somalia, and Sudan are federal states because the central government possesses exclusive power over matters like defense, foreign policy, and currency. In Sudan, for example, federating units cannot decide the currency they get to use. It is the Central Bank of Sudan, controlled by the federal government of Sudan, that can make monetary policies and decisions for the government. In Comoros, for example, the federating units cannot defend themselves from external aggression. The federal government, through the army, defends the country from external aggression. Another feature of a federal state is the supremacy of the center over component units in times of conflict between the central government and the component units. For example, let's say a law was made in Ethiopia by the federal legislature. If another law is made by a state in Ethiopia, say Tigray, that contradicts the federal law stands. Also, in the federal states, the federating units also have power over matters like education, healthcare, revenue collection, local courts, and cultural affairs. Federating units do not always have the right of secession in a federal state. But in Nigeria, this was the reason for the 1967 Civil War. The eastern region attempted to secede from the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but was brought back through a civil war. This has always been a reoccurrence in federal states in Africa, such as Sudan and Ethiopia. Although the component unit in Sudan was able to secede in 2011 to form South Sudan and Eritrea in 1992 from Ethiopia, all these have been without a civil war. Federalism is not a popular political system in Africa, as most of the states in Africa are unitary states, but this system surely exists in Africa. Will other countries in Africa restructure their political systems to a federal structure? We don't know yet. But, in summary, always remember, a federal state is a state where power is shared between the center and the federating or component units. There are only 5 federal states on the continent of Africa. That's it for this lesson, my friend. I hope to see you in the next one, where we continue our discussion on the systems of government in Africa. Bye.